There is a version of you that almost no one has ever met, and the terrifying part is that you have spent so much energy hiding that version that sometimes you forget it exists too. You smile at the right moments, you say the right things, you laugh when you are supposed to laugh, and from the outside, everything looks fine. Everything looks perfectly normal. But late at night, when no one is watching, you feel something quietly exhausting, like you have been performing all day, like you have been playing a character who shares your name, your face, your voice, but somehow is not fully you. And the strangest part is that you cannot even explain it to anyone, because how do you tell someone that the person they think they know is only half the story? Think about the last time you walked into a room full of people. Maybe it was a family gathering, a work meeting, or a social event you forced yourself to attend because saying no felt too complicated to explain. You walked in, and something shifted inside you automatically, almost like a switch you did not consciously flip, but your body flipped it for you anyway. Your posture changed. Your voice changed. The way you held your face changed. You became someone slightly different, someone easier, someone people would not question, worry about, or look at with that expression you cannot stand. The one that makes you feel like a burden before you have even opened your mouth. And nobody in that room noticed the shift, because you have done this so many times, in so many places, that it has become completely invisible, even to yourself. You have been wearing this mask for so long that putting it on requires almost no effort anymore. It is seamless, automatic, so convincing that sometimes the people around you actually compliment you on how calm you always seem, how easy you are to be around, how well you handle things, and you smile at that, because what else would you do? You cannot exactly tell them the truth. You cannot tell them that the calm is a performance, and the ease is a survival strategy you built quietly over years. So you smile, you nod, and somewhere underneath that, you feel something that is hard to name. It is not quite sadness. It is not quite anger. It is more like a dull, persistent ache of being unseen, of being liked, maybe even loved, but not for the real you, for the version of you that you carefully constructed so that people would stay. Here is something worth understanding, and it is simpler than you might think. Every person has what you could call a social self, a version they present to the world. That is not unusual. That is not fake. That is just part of being human. But for most people, the distance between who they are in public and who they are in private is small. They polish themselves a little for the outside world and take that polish off when they get home. It costs them almost nothing. But for you, that distance is much wider. The mask is much heavier, because the version of you that you show the world is not just slightly refined. It is genuinely different, and living inside that difference every single day feels like translating yourself. Like you are constantly converting your real thoughts, your real feelings, your real reactions into a language that other people can accept without flinching. And that kind of living takes something from you, slowly, quietly, in ways you might not even notice until you are completely alone and you feel this strange emptiness that you cannot trace back to any single event. You are tired, but not from anything specific. You are lonely, but not because there are no people around you. You are disconnected, but not in a way you can point to and explain. It just lives inside you like a low, constant hum that never fully goes away. And the most painful part of all of it is this. You genuinely do not know how much of what people love about you is actually you, because you have spent so long curating yourself for other people's comfort that you have started to lose track of where the performance ends and the real person begins. You will be in the middle of a conversation and catch yourself saying something and wonder, do I actually believe this? Or is this just what this version of me is supposed to say? Now here is the part that most people get completely wrong about this. Most people assume that wearing a mask is about deception, that you are hiding something dark or shameful, that there is something manipulative about it. But that is almost never what is actually happening. The real reason you wear the mask is not manipulation. It is something far more human and far more heartbreaking than that. You wear it because you want to be loved. You wear it because somewhere along the way, you learned that the unfiltered version of you was too much, too emotional, too needy, too intense, too complicated. And so the mask was never a wall. It was actually an outstretched hand. It was you saying, quietly and without words, "Here, take this version of me. because I am not sure the real one is safe to offer yet. That is not deception. That is a person trying their hardest to belong in a world that gave them reasons to believe they might not. So when did it start? That is the question worth sitting with right now, and I want you to actually sit with it for a moment. When did you first learn that who you were was not quite enough as it was? Because the mask does not appear from nowhere. Nobody is born performing. Somewhere along the line, something happened. Maybe someone reacted badly when you were too emotional. Maybe being open got you hurt in a way you never fully recovered from. Maybe you grew up in an environment where certain feelings were simply not welcome, and being fine was the only acceptable answer. Or maybe it was nothing that dramatic. Maybe it was just 100 tiny moments stacked on top of each other. A look that said too much, a comment that landed wrong, a silence that told you more than any words could, and slowly, without realizing it, you started editing yourself. You put away the parts that made people uncomfortable, and you built something safer in their place. Something people could handle. Something that would not push anyone away. But here is the cruelest irony of the whole thing, and this is the part that really needs to land. The more convincingly you wear the mask, the lonelier you become. The more people like you, the more disconnected you feel. Because every compliment, every friendship, every moment of connection that forms around the mask is also a quiet reminder that it is not really you they chose, it is the performance. And you are standing just behind it, watching people fall in love with a version of you that you had to engineer, wondering what would happen if they ever saw what was underneath. You start to avoid situations where the mask might slip. You keep conversations at a certain depth and never let them go further. You deflect when things get too personal. You make a joke when you want to cry. You say you are fine so many times that it stops even feeling like a lie anymore. It just becomes the default answer, the automatic response, the thing you say before anyone gets close enough to ask a real question. And slowly, over time, the mask stops feeling like something you put on. It starts feeling like your actual face. You forget what it felt like to speak without filtering first. You forget what it felt like to let someone see you react in real time, without editing the reaction before it even reaches the surface. You forget that somewhere inside you there is a person with opinions that might make people uncomfortable, with feelings that do not always make sense, with fears that do not go away just because you refuse to acknowledge them in public. That person is still there, underneath all of it. Quieter now, maybe. More patient. But still there. Still waiting for the moment when you decide that being known is worth the risk of being rejected. Still hoping that one day, you will stop performing long enough to let someone actually find you. Here is what nobody tells you about authenticity. It does not feel brave when you are doing it. It feels terrifying. It feels like standing in the middle of a room with no armor and wondering if everyone can suddenly see all the things you have been hiding. It feels vulnerable in the most uncomfortable way possible. And that discomfort is exactly why most people never do it. Because the mask is familiar. The mask is safe. The mask has a track record of keeping people close, even if it keeps them close to the wrong version of you. But you already know, on some level, that safe and meaningful are not the same thing. You already know that there is a difference between being liked and being known. You have felt that difference. You have sat in rooms full of people who enjoy your company and felt completely invisible at the same time. And that feeling, that very specific feeling, is your real self trying to tell you something important. So here is the truth that this entire thing has been building toward. There are people in this world who would love the real version of you. Not the polished one. Not the one who always knows what to say and never seems to fall apart and laughs at exactly the right moments. The uncertain one. The one who overthinks. The one who sometimes does not know how to feel about things and sits with that uncertainty for longer than feels comfortable. The one who has cried about things that probably should not matter as much as they do. The one who is not sure they are doing any of this correctly. That person is worth knowing. That person has depth that the mask cannot even begin to contain. And the people who are right for your life, the ones who are actually meant to stay, they do not want the performance. They want the person underneath it. But they cannot reach that person if you never give them the chance to try. You do not have to tear the mask off all at once. That is not what this is asking of you. You do not have to suddenly become completely transparent with everyone around you or start sharing every hidden part of yourself in every conversation. That is not authenticity. That is just a different kind of performance. What this is really about is something smaller and somehow harder. It is about letting the mask slip slightly, in moments where it feels safe enough. It is about choosing one real sentence over one comfortable lie. It is about saying, actually, I have been struggling a little lately, instead of, I am fine. It is about pausing before you deflect and asking yourself, what would I say if I was not afraid right now? It is about letting someone see a reaction before you have edited it. Small things, quiet things, things that add up over time into a life that feels genuinely inhabited rather than constantly managed. The mask kept you safe when safety was what you needed. It protected you during moments when being unguarded would have cost you too much. There is no shame in that. The mask was not your weakness. It was your intelligence. It was the most creative solution you had at the time to a problem that felt impossible. And you should not spend a single moment being angry at yourself for building it. But you are not in that moment anymore. You have survived the thing the mask was built to protect you from. And now the most honest question you can ask yourself is this. Is the mask still protecting you, or has it started to protect you from the very things you actually want? Connection, closeness, the terrifying and extraordinary experience of being genuinely known by another person. Because here is the thing about being known. It is the one thing the mask can never get you. It can get you acceptance. It can get you approval. It can get you a room full of people who enjoy your company. But it cannot get you the feeling of sitting across from someone who sees all of you, the curated parts and the hidden parts, and the parts that do not make sense, and choosing to stay anyway. That feeling is only available on the other side of the mask, and you will not find it, no matter how perfectly you perform. You deserve that feeling, not because you have earned it or because you have finally fixed all the things you think are wrong with you, but simply because you are a person. And every person deserves to be loved for who they actually are, underneath everything they built to survive. So tonight, when you are alone, and the mask comes off the way it always does when no one is watching, just notice what is there. Not to judge it, not to fix it, just to acknowledge that it exists. To sit with yourself the way you wish someone else would. To offer yourself the same patience and understanding you have spent years giving to the version of you that the world gets to see. The face underneath the mask is not broken. It is not too much. It is not something that needs to be hidden away until it becomes more acceptable. It is the most real thing about you, and the most courageous thing you can do in a world that keeps rewarding the performance is to begin, slowly and gently, choosing that realness over the approval you have been chasing for so long. Not all at once, just a little more than yesterday,